Well, hello and welcome to our Good Friday service from Tenebrae Church. Tonight we're doing something a little bit different, and yet it's a very old service. It's called Tenebrae, which really means the service of shadows. And this has been a particular form of Christian worship since the 9th century. The idea behind the service is relatively simple. It used to be that years ago, before smoke machines and data projectors and fancy lights, the visual aids in church were pretty much to do with natural shadows and light. And so this became a traditional service for Holy Week. The church would be lit by candles, and after each reading, a candle would be put out. The idea was that as the Easter story, the story of the crucifixion, became more and more tense and dark, the light in the church would fade. And at the end of the evening, the congregation would leave in complete darkness. It's a service that people love here at our Train Desert Crate, and so tonight we're really just giving you a glimpse into how we do it. It's not the same, obviously, with no one in church, but we're doing a shortened version, and we hope that you find it helpful. I'd like to say thank you to our musical director in Desert Crate, Russell Donaldson, for the lovely piano version of Stuart Townend's hymn Gethsemane that we'll be using as linking music throughout this evening. The first reading, the shadow of betrayal. When evening came, Jesus was reclining with the 12, and while they were eating, he said, "Truly I tell you, one of you will betray me." They were very sad and began to say to him one after the other, "Surely you don't mean me, Lord." Jesus replied, "The one who has dipped his hand into the bowl with me will betray me. The Son of Man will go just as it is written about him. But woe to that man who betrays the Son of Man. It would be better for him if he had not been born." Then Judas, the one who would betray him, said, "Surely you don't mean me, Rabbi." And Jesus answered, "You have said so." The second reading, the shadow of denial. Now Peter was sitting out in the courtyard, and the servant girl came to him. "You also were with Jesus of Galilee," she said. But he denied it before them all. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said. Then he went out to the gateway, where another servant girl saw him and said to the people there, "This fellow was with Jesus of Nazareth." He denied it again with an oath, "I don't know the man." After a little while, those standing there went up to Peter and said, "Surely you are one of them. Your accent gives you away." Then he began to call down curses, and he swore to them, "I don't know the man." Immediately, a rooster crowed. Then Peter remembered the words Jesus had spoken, "Before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times. And he went outside and wept bitterly. The third reading, the shadow of death. From noon until 3 in the afternoon, darkness came over all the land. About 3 in the afternoon, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, "Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani," which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?" When some of those standing there heard this, they said, "He's calling Elijah." Immediately one of them ran and got a sponge. He filled it with wine vinegar, put it on a staff, and offered it to Jesus to drink. The rest said, "Now, leave him alone. Let's see if Elijah comes to save him." And when Jesus had cried out again in a loud voice, he gave up his spirit. The fourth reading, the shadow of burial. As evening approached, there came a rich man from Arimathea named Joseph, who had himself become a disciple of Jesus. Going to Pilate, he asked for Jesus' body, and Pilate ordered that it be given to him. Joseph took the body, wrapped it in a clean linen cloth, and placed it in his own new tomb that he had cut out of the rock. He rolled a stone in front of the entrance to the tomb and went away. I came across this poem from Bob Dylan. Broken lines, broken strings, broken threads, broken springs, broken idols, broken heads, people sleeping in broken beds. Ain't no use jiving, ain't no use joking. Everything is broken. Broken bottles, broken plates, broken switches, broken gates, broken dishes, broken parts. Streets are filled with broken hearts. Broken words never meant to be spoken. Everything is broken. Seems like every time you stop and turn around, something else just hit the ground. Broken cutters, broken saws, broken buckles, broken laws. Broken bodies, broken bones, broken voices and broken phones. Take a deep breath, feel like you're choking. Everything is broken. Every time you leave and go off someplace, things fall to pieces in my face. Broken hands and broken ploughs, broken treaties, broken vows, broken pipes, broken tools, people bending broken rules. Hound dog howling, bullfrog croaking, everything is broken. It is, of course, Dylan's way of reminding us that all is not well with the world, as if we need it reminding. And when we ask that age-old question, what is wrong with the world? The simple answer is that everything is broken. And as we know, the heart of the problem is the problem of the human heart. In the beginning, according to the book of Genesis, there was over and in everything what the Hebrews described as a shalom. A word we usually translate as peace, but it's more than that. It means things were just as they should be. But then, according to the story, things went pear-shaped. The pair we call Adam and Eve, representing humanity, did their own thing instead of listening to the voice of God. And the result was that from then on, everything was broken. Shalom was shattered in pieces. We see it everywhere all around us, in illness and disease, in broken hearts, in wars and disasters, in murders and human trafficking. And underneath it all is this inbuilt ability to wreck, to break, to vandalize. The whole world is broken. Everything is broken. That would be pretty bad news if that was all there was to us, but the Christian story is, of course, a story of good news. It reminds us that God is in the business of fixing broken things and broken people, and indeed a broken world. And on Good Friday, we're reminded he did it in a strange way. On a cross, God became broken for us. And that's where Holy Week leads us in our thoughts to this Good Friday. To God on a cross, mending everything that has been broken by our wrong choices. I love trees. I love looking at them in all seasons. Winter trees with dramatic silhouettes. Spring trees I'm enjoying at the minute, covered in the prima verde, the new green. Summer trees and dappled lights coming through the leaves. And autumn trees. And one of my hobbies is taking photos, and I probably take more photos of trees than of anything else. The story of us and God is framed by trees. It starts in a place that the Bible calls the Garden of Eden, and with this tree called the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And it's the one tree that Adam and Eve were not to eat from. But of course they did. And the result was everything is broken. But the Bible story finishes with another tree in another garden, which you can read about in the last book of the Bible, the book of Revelation. But at the center of our story, there is a third tree. It's a tree on a hill outside the city of Jerusalem. And it appears there on a dark, sorrowful, noisy Friday afternoon. And on that tree hangs God in a person. God on a cross in the person of Christ, redeeming or buying back a broken world, making it possible to restore shalom, that missing piece. Now, what happened on the cross the day Jesus died is at the very heart of all that Christians believe and celebrate. The cross. The late Canon David Watson wrote these words: "The cross is a picture of violence, and yet it's the key to peace. It's a picture of suffering, and yet it's the key to healing. It's a picture of death, and yet it's the key to life. It's a picture of utter weakness, and yet it's the key to power. It's a picture of capital punishment, and yet it's the key to mercy and forgiveness. It's a picture of vicious hatred, yet it's the key to love. It's a picture of supreme shame, and yet it is the Christian's supreme boast." Each week in our church, we stand and affirm our belief in Jesus and who he is and what he's done using the words of the Creed. And we're recognizing that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, who came to earth to redeem us, to restore shalom, to fix all that was broken. The Easter story is a story of light and shadows, and that is echoed in the visuals in our service tonight. On Good Friday, it seemed like darkness and death and chaos and brokenness had the last word. But Sunday morning was still to come. As Tony Campolo, the famous preacher, once said, "It's Friday, but Sunday's coming."